Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are in November. It is the 1st as you guys are listening to this. Happy Halloween. I hope everyone had a safe and fun Halloween last night. A lot of trick-or-treaters. Me, the wife, the daughter dressed up as the Belcher family from Bob's Burgers. So a lot of good times were had. Not only with Halloween, but also with the Houston Texans and Jets Thursday night game. Best case scenario for Kansas City came into play. Houston lost that game as Vegas had predicted. As one of my buddies put it, the sucker bet reeled in 74% of the money, and the casinos cashed out on that, most certainly. So Houston drops another game, putting them at 6-3, allowing Kansas City to come in this weekend and really continue to push that stranglehold they have on the AFC's number one seed. Really great things, really great things. So, Buccaneers, right? We got Monday Night Football this week. It's going to be a showdown against Baker Mayfield and a shorthanded Buccaneers team. Getting right into it, looking at the injury report here, it was pretty tough for Tampa. There's a lot that, sorry, just kind of rolling through this. There's a lot of guys, key impact players that are still not practicing this week. Levante David, big time name on the defensive side of the ball. Mike Evans, probably the biggest name on here with his hamstring issue. Bucky Irving, one of their most explosive offensive players, has not practiced all week. And then a handful of contributors here fill in the rest of this report for the Buccaneers. And this doesn't even include the fact that Chris Godwin has torn his ACL, and I think PCL, and maybe meniscus. It was pretty no. Thinking of a different injury. He broke his ankle. That's what it was. So he's going to be missing the remainder of the season and is not on this injury report for obvious reasons. On the Chiefs side of it, concussion for Najee Johnson. That's something that has kept him out. Juju Smith-Schuster still dealing with his hamstring. Likely going to be D-Hop, Worthy, Watson, Hardman, and potentially Ross suiting up on the wide receiver side of things. Maybe the biggest surprise here is that Kareem Hunt is on the injury report with a quad. He doesn't really miss time too often, so feel confident about that. And Mike Dana actually practicing. So that's a step in the positive direction after a trade for Josh Uche from New England. Going to bolster that defensive rotation even more, continue forcing that pressure on opposing teams. So that's going to be fantastic. Some other guys appear here, big names: Drew Tranquill, Trent McDuffie, Mahomes, Hardman. All guys nursing injuries but participating in full, so not worried about availability there, barring some kind of freak incident. But this Friday practice always tells the tale of who is going to play in this game and who is not. The teams in this game have an added benefit of that extra day, that Monday night game. So that's something to potentially look forward to for both Kansas City and Tampa Bay as we kind of gear up for this game. So obvious storyline here, the Chiefs-Buccaneers Super Bowl 55 rematch. But the thing is, like, it doesn't have the same luster because a good majority of what made that a rivalry, the players involved, are no longer there, right? It was Gronk and Kelsey. It was Mahomes and Kelsey, or Mahomes and Brady. There were all these different comparisons from a player perspective where the Chiefs at the time were chasing legacy, and the players that were involved with Tampa Bay out, really it's the expatriates guys. Those guys already had an established legacy that was guaranteed to get them into the Hall of Fame. Mahomes, Kelsey there now. But at the time, they had to really, there was still that chip on the shoulder, and I think they carry that with them regardless. But that's one of those things that made it such an interesting game. We don't really have a ton of that today, especially since Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both going to be missing in action from this particular game. Really, the way the Chiefs can get this win might come in a few ways, but I think for the majority, it's going to be forcing pressure on Baker Mayfield and making him uncomfortable. The Denver Broncos did a fantastic job of doing that earlier this season. Got the upset win over Tampa in Denver. Baker's going to be uncomfortable in Arrowhead. That's going to be a fact. The noise factor, the fact that this defense is one of the top 3, arguably number 1 in the league. But their ability to force pressure, not always finishing it, but forcing the pressure to make quarterbacks, choose a bad decision in those scenarios is definitely a strength for this defense. Now the defense needs to capitalize on those things a little bit more. I want to see more turnovers for Kansas City in this game. But if they can get to Baker Mayfield, this is a guy that plays with a lot of fire and intensity. And if you let him take that into the game and just kind of let him be himself, that's really where he can tear you up. And I think another thing the Chiefs have to do, if you get an opportunity to get up early on this team, you cannot take your foot off the gas, because this Buccaneers team, regardless of who's catching passes, they've shown a propensity for comebacks, for the ability to bring themselves back from the dead, just to keep it in the spooky theme, against teams. And that's something that Kansas City has been prone to allowing. So if the Chiefs are going to come out of this game victorious and they find themselves in a situation where this thing is a runaway, keep it that way, right? Don't let these guys get back into it. I think one of the things Tampa, is going to be focusing on is how's the Tampa Bay running game going to get going, right? The Chiefs have allowed the lowest total yards per carry in the league. They've held premier names well below their season averages. Derrick Henry, the Offensive Player of the Year frontrunner at the moment, deservedly so, was held to less than 50 yards on the night and never really got carries in the second half because of game script, I think, a little bit. But also, they weren't really getting anything going outside of the first 2 carries in that game. Alexander Mattison last week averaged less than a yard and a half a carry. This front 7 has been lights out, and it's been incredible to see them flourish this year and really put their stamp on the run game, because the Chiefs, that was not really their MO last year. They were allowing yards in the air, on the ground, forcing threes, forcing field goals instead of allowing the touchdown, which was great. But they were letting teams march down the field, and that's something that we just haven't seen this year. The teams that have put up the most points on Kansas City have gotten short fields, and the Raiders just had that last week, 2 drives in a row, and came away with 1 field goal after failing on a 4th down attempt. So the Buccaneers are really going to need to focus on how can they exploit the defense to the best of their abilities and get the best out of Bucky Irving and Rachaad White and the rest of the backs that they have there, because they do have a fantastic tandem. And Kansas City can't take that lightly in this game. But they're going to need that going early and often, because what that's going to allow Tampa Bay to do is open up situations in the passing game, right? Cade Otton is maybe their primary guy at this point. He had a fantastic game last week. I think caught 2 touchdowns in that one. But he's primarily going to be Baker's go-to guy, especially on those quick routes, right? Those those quick outs, those inside slants that they're going to be running, a little 2-5 yard slants. Those are going to be situations where Cade Otton's going to shine. And it's going to be up to Drew Tranquill, Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal to, either chip him at the line of scrimmage, make it tough for him to get that route off in the beginning, and then also as a secondary, hold that middle down. Make sure you're getting those pass breakups. And if anyone's good at doing that, it's Drew Tranquill. Drew Tranquill's actually been dropping back into coverage to the second level. Usually linebackers, they aren't going past the sticks. And if they are, they're maybe a hair past them. He's been dropping back into the deepest parts of the field in certain coverages and packages. And I think that's something that Kansas City needs to be wary of. But Drew Tranquill's also shown that he has the athletic ability to make plays on contested catches and such. So that's one of those things that's going to be pretty key for Tampa, is to try and exploit that, right? If you can diagnose the coverage, a disguise, whatever that situation looks like, you can really know what guy's going to be open, change your reads. Baker Mayfield can do that at the line of scrimmage himself. And he's pretty smart. Like, Baker's a good quarterback. He knows how to diagnose those things a lot of times. And so that's going to be something that'll be interesting. The challenge is, can he do that in a way that the people on his team can hear him with the loud Arrowhead crowd? That's going to be the big question. Now, I think you're looking at this. It's not an AFC matchup. It's NFC, AFC. So, who needs this game more? I don't know if I want to say it's probably Tampa, but I'm not really concerned about Tampa right now. Being an NFC team, if they make it to the playoffs and that's the matchup the Chiefs face in the Super Bowl, then that's a situation that, we can dive into it on this show. But I think it's more exciting to talk about what this win would mean for the Chiefs. So in the event the Chiefs get the win, Monday Night Football in Arrowhead against the shorthanded Buccaneers team, you take that information for what you will. The Chiefs will be 8-0. At minimum, they'll have a 2-game lead on the AFC number 1 seed. At minimum, they'll have a 2.5-game lead on the AFC West Division title. And that doesn't include the results of the Bills game this weekend. That doesn't include the results of the the Broncos game this weekend. The Steelers on a bye, they will hold pat and actually gain a half game in this scenario on Kansas City, being even-keeled again. But the Texans dropped one, right? The Ravens currently sit at 3 losses as well. In my mind, those are 2 of the top 3 competitive teams in the NFL here. And the Chiefs need to continue to take advantage of these scenarios that allow them to gain games back from these teams they're playing. Cincinnati's one to watch. They're 3-5. Obviously, the Jets, the Dolphins, they both have 5 or more losses. So not really worried about those teams in particular, but what this win would do for Kansas City is cement the pace that the rest of the league has to be on to catch this team. It's proven that they're in a tier of their own. Some power rankings have the Lions higher. I think that's kind of hogwash. They lost a game. The Chiefs are undefeated. In most scenarios, they've won without question. And they've fought through the adversity. And it's adversity that every team in the league has had to fight through up to this point. The difference is the Chiefs have come out with wins. The rest of the league has not in those scenarios. So who needs the win more? I think Tampa needs a little more. Not going to go through their scenarios, but for the Chiefs, this makes you feel good. This makes you feel cush. I think the rest of the fan base in Kansas City, the Chiefs Kingdom, you'd be feeling pretty damn good going into November, December, undefeated, stranglehold on the AFC's number one seed, clear front runner in the division. And if they come out of here with just a couple scrapes and bruises, then you know you have reinforcements coming in Hollywood Brown and Pacheco. And that's within the next 3 to 6 weeks. You can start expecting some of those guys coming back based on what we've seen reported with those guys practicing and such. So pretty awesome in the kingdom as we're heading into the weekend. Sunday's going to be fun for us, pressure-free football, right? All we have to do is watch some of these teams maybe screw up, maybe allow Kansas City to get more of a lead. In terms of the betting odds, this, it has a good chance of changing before Monday, being Friday and all. But as it stands right now, the total's 46.5 points. The Chiefs favored by 8.5 points. In Arrowhead, mind you. I'm taking the Buccaneers to cover this game. I don't think they lose by more than a touchdown. I don't think this is a 2-possession affair. I think it comes down to a touchdown. At the absolute most, I could see this being a 6-point, 4-point win. And it's not going to be one of those things where it's like back and forth showdown. I think it's going to be a backdoor cover situation. And maybe I'm burned by the last game a little bit. Raiders came back and did that. But going with Buccaneers to cover that spread. And I actually like the over. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get more involved. Monday Night Football, primetime game. These teams are going to get up for it. No Mike Evans, no Godwin. Don't let that scare you from taking the over in this line. There are other playmakers in the Tampa Bay offense that can shine. Cade Otton was one of those guys last week. Their running back duo is one of the best in the league. And, on top of that, the guys that are supplementing Evans and Godwin, they're not bad. Sterling Shepard's a little banged up. We'll see if he plays. But, the guys like Palmer and those folks, like they're not bad. I think Johnson's another one they got on that team. When you're stuck behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, it's hard to get opportunities, but they're on the roster still and they have that chemistry with Baker, and we saw some of that in the game against the Falcons this week. And they were competitive. They put up points. And I think the Falcons are one of the stingier defenses in the NFL. So not a game to take lightly. Definitely one of those ones that's going to be fun to watch. Going to be a wet game. Ooh, I forgot about that. It's going to be storming all day. The field's going to be a little soppy. I'm glad we're talking through this together, everybody. I am pivoting to the under. Still taking Tampa Bay to cover. I am pivoting to the under at 45.5 points. Assuming weather is happening the way it's expected to. If it clears up and we're good, it's Missouri, right? Temperamental weather situation going on here. If that's the case, take the over. Watch the rain. And just enjoy the game. Don't do anything crazy. Make sure you bet responsibly, all that stuff. So, all right, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to let you go on that. Appreciate everybody following along. Hope you had a fun and safe Halloween again. At the fastest_40 on IG and X. You can watch our videos on the Odyssey Sports page on YouTube, or you can listen anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and the free Odyssey app. Go Chiefs. Happy Red Friday. Get your red on, and we'll see you at the game Monday. Peace.